Today we're going to be making a paint tube sculpture. To begin, we're going to squish the end of our paper towel tube. This is going to be the end of the paint tube. After you squish it down, you can flip the end part up a little bit to help it stay in place. Make sure you crease the sides really well. Try not to crease the entire side of your tube because we want one end to be round while the other should look like it's crimped. After you get that done, it's time to start with plaster. This is the exact same stuff that they use if you were to break your arm. You begin by dipping the plaster in the water and then kind of squeegeeing some of the water off back into the bowl. By doing this, you're also mixing the water with the plaster, which will help to smooth it out. After you've dripped off most of the water, you're going to lay it over your paper towel tube. Now the stuff does want to wrinkle and fold in on itself, so you just need to take your time to unfold it and smooth it out. The more water that you have will actually weaken the plaster, and it can make your paper towel tube too soggy. If you need to dip your finger in the water to help you smooth the plaster out, that's okay. Just try not to saturate it too much. We only want to use as much water as we need. The smoother you're able to get the plaster in the beginning, the easier it's going to be to paint. After you've applied your first strip, go ahead and apply a second. We only need to give our sculpture one good layer of plaster. The process is the same. Go ahead and dip it in your water and then start to smooth it out with your fingers while you're squeezing that extra water back into the bowl. Try not to overwork the plaster because you don't want to squeeze it all out of the cloth. Go ahead and lay that on top of your sculpture, just like we did with the first. Smooth out those wrinkles, and then begin to rub your finger over the plaster. You can see it filling in all of those little pinholes. That's exactly what you want. You will have a little bit of a seam where the plaster does overlap, but that's okay. Just do your best to smooth out the cloth and the plaster as much as you can. Continue this until the entire base of the tube is covered. After you get it completely covered with plaster, don't forget to kind of rebend that end to make sure that it looks like it's kind of sticking up a little bit. Fill in any other little holes that you have, and then we're ready to cover the top. To cover the opening, you're going to take a plaster strip and just kind of drape it over that hole. To smooth out your strip, it is going to be a little more tricky because you don't want to actually push the plaster into the opening. So I recommend doing maybe a little more smoothing before you actually place it on top of the tube. I also found it helpful to fold it in half just so it gave me a little more strength to work with when I was putting it over the top. Drape it down the sides and then smooth out those seams. Again, you're going to see where they connect, but just do your best to make it as smooth as possible. This will definitely help when it's time to paint. After you've got it nice and smoothed out and everything is the shape it needs to be, go ahead and set it down to dry.